for joining us, the Wealthy Retailer Podcast with your host, Dan Holman. Every episode, Dan dives into the retail headlines that matter to you, the independent retailer, covering topics ranging from retailer inventory, technology, marketing, retailers' questions, and more. The Wealthy Retailer Podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. Learn more at retailbycrs.com. And now, here's Dan Holman.
Hey guys, welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. I am your host, Dan Holman. And today I've brought a guest for us that is probably more relevant to us than what we might recognize. He is someone that I have admired from a close in years past and in the last couple of years from afar. Stephen Brooks is the pop-up expert. And one of the things that I admire most, if you're not following this guy on social, you need to follow Stephen on social media, is his no bullshit attitude. He tells it like it is. He is not afraid to call a spade a spade. And so not only is he this well sought after speaker, you've probably seen him at many of our trade shows that we attend. He's a frequent visitor on Ameritrade, and this is a guy that's in the know, and really happy to have Stephen join us again. Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Dan, it's great to be with you again. Nice to still be here and doing stuff, right? So
it is nice to still be here.
It's been a slog, but we're still here and we're still going.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what retail entrepreneurialism is. It's about figuring shit out, figuring out how do we just keep inching forward? How do we survive the bullets that get shot at us from day to day and week to week? And, the pandemic is just another bullet, maybe coming out of a machine gun instead of but hey, it is what it is. So let's chat a little bit about, what's new in your world. What are you seeing? And then we'll get to some retail stuff.
Yeah. So listen, over the last kind of 18 months, things have been, very, very kind of subdued, as everybody knows, in brick and mortar and physical retailing, the connection and certainly my particular specialty of pop-up retailing. But as we've started to kind of come out of COVID, and I think one of the things we've all got to do is stop using COVID now as an excuse, right?
Yeah, well said.
It's been around for a while. Just deal with the shit of it, right? Adapt. So things have really been moving forward. Online businesses wanting to go from digital to physical is kind of there's a big momentum in that right now. Certainly, as you all know, you're seeing bigger retailers looking at smaller environments, just because they've realized they can trade off of less space and really combine an online and technological experience with a physical experience. I'm back out speaking again, which I'm so thankful for. I mean, it's great doing Zooms, Dan, and I've done a lot of workshops virtually and so on. But last week I spoke at the Javits Center in New York at the White Label Expo, and it was so lovely to be in front of a live audience again.
Yeah.
And just get that connection and actually get that feedback rather than that little delay or somebody not having to unmute their mic and all of that sort of stuff. Silly little things, but made such a difference. So as I said yesterday in a post, I'm just excited right now. I woke up yesterday wishing I was 30 years younger because I just feel I've got so much more to do. And, I'm excited about the next 10 minutes, about the next hour, about the next 24 hours, the next week, the next month, the next 10 years.
Right.
Because I think there's so much happening in this industry of retail that we all love. And I want to be as big a part of that as I can possibly be. Yeah.
And I guess, Stephen, I think, we go through this, I call it the bipolar roller coaster of retail. Where I wake up one morning feeling like I am, King Kong, ready to smash the world in front of me. And then the next day I wake up and I feel like, oh my gosh, I need some motivation. Do you still feel that way when you're rolling forward? I mean, waking up yesterday feeling, man, I wish I was 30 again. I wish I was. Yeah.
Listen, there are days when, like you say, it doesn't go to plan. Right. But it's one day.
Right.
It's one day. And so I think if you're if you love what you do, and funnily enough, I opened my Javit address last week with, I'm one of these people that really loves what I do, and I feel that I'm incredibly lucky by that. And that's the motivation that keeps me going, because I do like it. I see people doing great things. You know when you coach people, Dan, and you just know, doesn't matter what you're doing with them, they're never going to get it.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're a paid friend. That's the way I see it, right?
For sure. I agree.
But then you come across people, and I'm working with some great guys up in Illinois right now, in a mall, who totally get it 100% and are crushing it. And I'm like, that's what everybody needs to be doing.
Right.
So
do you think that there are, those retailers that we have in our lives that we become paid friends to, that we end up being a shoulder to cry on rather than the person that's holding them accountable to their vision? Do you think that it's because they're growing so tired, they are feeling so beaten up? And part of that is themselves beating up. They're feeling beaten up because they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And they look for someone like you or I, who, quite frankly, has the ability to inspire change, right? Stephen, we have skill and experience. We have knowledge. We've learned through this, life of retail that we've lived, how to accomplish these things. These retailers don't necessarily know that. And your and I's ability to inspire change is how we keep these people that do get it completely focused.
No, I agree. I think that all businesses right now are just being incredibly hard on themselves for whatever reason, whether that's, supply chain, whether that's they can't recruit, whether the sales aren't there, whether their social media posts don't get the likes and follows that they think they should be getting, all the things that and some of them are quite irrelevant as well. Right. So I think that you've got to kind of cut yourself some slack and go, listen, let's just focus on some achievement. Let's focus on the good. Let's focus on our team. Let's focus on doing things that we know we are good at. And you use guys like us to kind of, keep us pushing forward. Retail's a dinosaur, Dan, right. Or has been a dinosaur. And if there's, some good that's come out of COVID, it was retail going, shit, we need to do something here. Right. We need to raise our game. And I'm talking about, small, medium businesses. I'm not talking about the Targets and the Walmarts, because, they've kind of got it solved in some way. Right. But at the core of retail, the passionate retail, those mum and pups, those 3 or 4 little chains, right, really had to step up their game. And I think for a lot of those people, that was kind of frightening and intimidating at one level. Mm-hmm. But the guys that really kind of embraced it and like, hang on a second, I'm just opening up a whole new customer base, or I'm opening up a whole new way of communicating about how good we are and what we do. They're the ones that have been successful, right? But those that are still kind of, I don't know, they're the ones I think that need the extra support. They do need that arm around the shoulder and go, listen, you can do this, right? Because here's 100 other examples of people that are doing this and being successful, and I think we have a responsibility to bring those people along. And I do think they're going to fall by the wayside. I agree, and I think that we are seeing enormous success, back at our boutique level. That 1 to 5 or 10 store chains are having massive success, and I think they feel, overshadowed by the success of the big A and Walmarts and Targets. But here's the thing, having spent some time in LA last week, walking through a big box store, man, there is some scarcity of inventory, and it's giving us, the small and independent, small to medium retailer a leg up, because we kind of have inventory. We're buying it differently. We're accessing it differently than the container load that we see in the big box stores. And I feel like boutique today, Stephen, the definition of boutique has changed. Boutique years ago used to be synonymous with expensive. Totally.
Boutique today is synonymous with local, neighbor, community, all of the things that we're rallying around. And I don't believe that there's a better time to be a small to medium-sized retailer than right now.
Couldn't agree more. I've been saying for the last year, local is the new global.
Right.
Right. You know, local business, small business is what's driving the retail success. I'm not going to say revival because, you know, retail's always going to be here. I don't care. You know, retail's dead. That's just rubbish. Right. It's that, you know, 1 to 5, that local store, that guy that's showing up every day. That's what's driving. That's what's driving a kind of, you know, the retail going forward right now. And it is hard. There's no doubt about that. And we're all competing for eyes of, you know, on across a myriad of platforms. But you're absolutely right. You know, for me, local is now the new global.
I agree. And so let's just talk about those eyes for a second. So not very long ago, we saw, you know, the largest social platform in the world crash, and it left retailers, in my mind, an opportunity to take a deep breath, to take a step back, but instead it scared the shit out of them. You know, these people that are relying so heavily on a single platform to get their message out became crippled instantaneously. To you know, somewhat similar to what was, you know, maybe St. Patrick's Day in 2020 as the world stopped turning. But so, you know, we have to be on multiple platforms. If we want to see people, we can't put our eggs in the Facebook basket or Instagram basket. We've got to be owning that audience and knowing how to get out there and talk to them. And I think that maybe was a bit of another rude awakening, perhaps, for the independent retailer.
Yeah, I agree. You know, as you say, putting your eggs in one basket and relying on one channel, you know, is not a good idea at all. And as you say, as a wake-up call, if anything, I think that people are kind of maybe underestimating, you know, what you can do on TikTok right now. They're underestimating what you can probably do on Snapchat with the right audience if it fits your niche. You know, from a Facebook and Instagram, it is great, but like you say, you know, someone turns the off switch on that. Where do you go?
Right.
Okay. I still believe that there's, you know, constant communication through even just, you know, loyalty programs and email shots. And even in some ways, you know, some lumpy mail. If you don't know what lumpy mail is, everybody, you know, it's actually physically sending something through the post to your consumer. And if you're that, let's say you're that high-end boutique, you can probably afford to do that. You know, send them an exclusive something in the post. Who doesn't like opening that and seeing that? So I think you've got to combine all of those platforms. The messaging is different as well. And I think that maybe is what scares people around, well, you know, Facebook is safe, right? I can do that. Facebook is safe. But the messaging needs to be slightly different. But if you look at your team, if you look at those young, enthusiastic people that are in your business that probably know a little bit more about the technology than you might, if you're kind of a, you know, not that way inclined, the value they can add to your business from that social media aspect is immense.
Yes, it is. And so let's just back up. You know, that lumpy mail, that snail mail. I walk a couple of blocks. We have these super boxes in my town. So we walk a couple of blocks to get our mail, and I take full advantage of that. You know, I get up in the middle of the day or from my desk, and I take that walk, I get that fresh air, and I go to the mail. And, you know, all the shit I jam back into the top of the slot. But when you get this hand addressed envelope, I'm opening it on my way back. I'm that excited to see what it is. And that's perhaps a good takeaway for retailers. You know, pick your top 10, pick your top 50, send them a note, send them something in the mail that gets you back to top of mind. You know, it's not easy to stay at the top of someone's feed today. There's so much competition for eye space, and there is no competition in my mailbox, you know, unless it's the flyers or election BS that I just jam back in the top of the box anyways. I'm not bringing it home.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I think genuine and personal and authentic wins every time. And as you say, you know, a handwritten envelope, you know, what's in this? And there's the excitement, Dan. You just said it yourself, and you're opening it on the way back because you're like, what is this?
What is it?
And it could be anything. It could be, you know, an invitation to an exclusive event. It could be as simple as a thank you note, right, for sticking with us, or whatever it might be, or you know, just arrived. But and I'm not talking about the gory, colourful bits of card that gets stuffed in my mailbox as much as yours. I'm talking about something of value, that says you're our customer and we appreciate you,
or you're our customer and we miss you.
Yes, I
miss you. Haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
there's ways to go and communicate with that audience. So really well put, Stephen. Okay, let's get to pop-up. Let's talk about pop-up. I do believe that there is significant opportunity, not just today, but as we look into 2022, for us to expand our opportunities. I think we're going to see, and you're the expert, so I'll give you my uneducated opinion, and then I'll let you tell me the way it is. I do believe that there's opportunity for brick and mortar retail to expand in 2022. I think we're going to see lots of attrition, and the cream will rise to the top. And pop-up is probably, in my mind, one of the smartest ways to test a market.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Let's just look at where we are right now, because I think we're coming into probably the busiest holiday season that we're likely to see, or have likely have seen in maybe 10, 15 years. Right. And there's a lot of noise around that. There's a lot of apprehension in stores. There's a lot of people, and you know, I've done this as a retailer, that you literally you're doing 7 days a week, and you're waiting for, you know, 2nd of January, because you know you can take a deep breath and have a lay in one morning. And I think at store level, there's a lot of apprehension of, are we ready? You know, are we ready for that? And I think you're right. Post holiday season, we're going to see some attrition with that, because people will go, right, I'm out. You know, I've done it, I'm out. But yes, that whole, as I was saying at the top of the show, that, you know, online to physical, there's a lot of that going on, and that pop-up way of testing that new location is the perfect vehicle for that, right? Testing before you're investing. It's also that way of shifting that over inventory stock that you've got. And you know, coming out of COVID, there were a lot of people stuck with things that what do we do with this? Do we let it gather dust? Do we really cut it, but we're trying to sell, you know, the new product and so on. So using that as a way of generating cash and putting that back into your business is huge, right? There will be some great opportunities. The pop-up kind of mentality amongst landlords is, you know, go back 3 or 4 years, pop-up retailing was seen as that annoyance that, it generates us cash, but we have to put a lot of work into it. And, you know, maybe sometimes we'll just wait for, you know, Hickory Farms to come along, or Calendar Club, or whatever it might be, and we'll make it up at the end of the year. Actually, pop-up retailing is now the adult in the room, because you've got landlords saying, well, hang on a sec, you know, local's the new global. Bringing in a local businesses, which is what we're doing in malls, and they bring that social following with them, and they're used to reacting quickly. So if you take the streetwear guys that I'm working with right now, they're dropping new product every week. Every week. So every time somebody comes into that store, you know, the following week, oh, there's something new in here. And they're socially active. They created a selfie booth in store. So, and you've literally got people coming in, just taking pictures in their selfie booth and going out. But it's driving the engagement. So pop-up, perfect vehicle for testing before you're investing. Perfect vehicle for moving your over inventoried stock. But it's also a way of, if you've got that model right, of actually expanding your business. And we've taken businesses from kind of one location to over 100 in less than 18 months, just using that pop-up format. Right.
This podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. We've been empowering retailers across North America for 30 years with the latest in point-of-sale technology, best-in-class support, merchandise intelligence with open-to-buy planning, and much more. CRS has the retail solution to help take your retail business to the next level of success. Visit retailbycrs.com to learn more. Remember, Canadian Retail Solutions exists to help make you, the independent retailer, better.
Now, the downside of that is everybody thinks, oh, right, that's really easy. I open a pop-up shop. It's really successful. I go to the mall that's nearest to me and I open the next one. And it's not, because it could, the demographic could be wrong.
Right.
The retail mix could be wrong. And again, we shouldn't be just limiting ourselves to malls. We should now be looking at strip malls. We should now be looking at, college campuses. We should be looking at big medical campuses. Because all of these places now are kind of opening themselves up to, we need to add some value, but also, maybe this is a revenue stream that we could have tapped into.
Right.
So if you're at that stage of taking the next leap, and you get through Christmas, and that's where people are going to be, that's the perfect strategy to implement for you to grow that business over the next 9 months. So you are totally prepared then for the 2022,
right,
in terms of having other locations and picked out maybe some good permanent locations and so on. And landlords are looking at doing deals right now, because there is still a lot of empty space out there. Right. But for the right product that fits with kind of the mall feel or the demographic, they'll go the extra mile.
Right. And are you going to see, do you believe, more attrition post-holiday that pushes landlords to be a little bit more apt to throw in a pop-up? And then second to that, how long should that pop-up be? If I'm testing before investing, is it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? What does it look like?
Yeah, I do think we'll see some attrition. I really do. Just because maybe, there'll be some people out there that will be tired and are either, come to the end of their cycle and so on. The ideal time, I think, if you're testing an environment, for me, is 90 days.
90.
Yeah. And here's why. Those first 2-3 weeks, people are kind of like, oh, this is new, are they going to be here tomorrow? And so you've got to build that consumer confidence. You then start to, and if you're an online brand, you start to bring in your online customer to the venue and so on, and then you start to build up this following. So your sales will start to grow. The first week, I guarantee you, if you're not that active on social media and you've got this following that will bring 200 people through your door in the first couple of days, you will be sitting there pulling your hair out thinking, what have I done? Right. Because people are just cautious. Okay. But sales will grow. And by the time you get to kind of week 9, week 10, that's probably where your sales are going to be on a consistent basis. So I think that 90 days is a great period. Now, what we're finding right now with a lot of people is that they're doing those first kind of 3 months, those first 90 days, but kind of at day 60, 70, they're seeing the value in it. So they're saying, actually, we'll just extend this for another 3 months.
Right.
And so they go through and have a 6-month period, whether that's an inline store or whether it's on the mall as a retail merchandise unit, or they've taken up a vacant kiosk or something like that. But the key is turning over the merchandise and keeping it fresh, being completely socially active. As far as getting your message out, and I don't mean just on platform. I mean, through amazing customer service,
right?
And then embedding and bringing together the technology that, if you are an online brand, you might be using to go, look, here's all the here's the best sellers, here's the stuff that really goes. But hang on, you're an extra small, or you're a 3XL. Yeah, look, there it is. There's my iPad. What do you want to do? Do you want to collect it in store, or do you want us to ship it to home?
Right. Okay, good. So let's just go to local is the new global.
Mm-hmm.
We transition very, very quickly to supporting local through,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, more so early this year than last year. 21 was very much about local taking over, some mind space in the consumer. Is it going to revert back in 2022? Are we going to let go of this power of local and I've got to support my neighbor and I've got to support my community? Are we going to see that revert?
I think that's the responsibility of the retailer to make sure it doesn't. I think if you continue to have that same mindset about, I want to survive, I want to move my business forward, so I'm going to do all that I can to keep you coming back, then yes, that will continue and should continue. And I think, culturally, maybe there has been a shift around, that going to the big brand all the time, because, in a lot of cases, that big brand's disappeared. Right. So where do we fill the void? So I think as long as you stay focused on delivering all the things that we talk about, great inventory, great customer service, integrating great technology, great ways to pay, great ways to deliver service, then that's the Garden of Eden, right? Loyal customers, right? And bringing them back time and time again, recognizing them. 64% of people will come back to a store and seek out the sales associate that gave them great advice and sold them a great product.
Right.
Now, sometimes it might be, Mr. Customer, we don't sell that. But if you go next door, Fred does. And it's, and that's that's authentic, it's genuine, it's honest, and customers love that, and they will come back because of that.
Right.
So it's not, I think there's a worry, and I'm seeing this somewhat at a landlord level as well, is that landlords we need to be doing more, we've got to be, supporting and it's quite busy. And as I said, we're going to see this really busy holiday season. That landlords then just take a step back and go, actually, we don't need to keep innovating now. Things are getting back to normal, so it's okay.
And so then I think that we're going to see this realization that things aren't normal January through March.
Absolutely right.
Right. And then landlords will have to reset again.
Yeah.
Not as much as the retailer resets, but the landlord. For us in retail, we know what that J is in January and February. We actually, in some cases, look forward to that opportunity to take a deep breath and to celebrate the success that November and December was, and recover from the 7 days a week, 70 hours a week. We take that opportunity, but landlords don't 100%. See it that way.
No, absolutely. And so I think, you'll see some good innovations. I mean, it's certainly in the pop-up space, we're seeing some innovations around, micro activations, which are literally, 1-day events or 4 or 5 hour events. For launching products or actually just doing a kind of flash sale. There's a business out of Europe called Souk.Spaces that has really encompassed this whole digital approach. So all the stores are about 500, 750 square feet, all kitted out with screens, but they take that whole online experience that you've got, they put it into store, you turn up for 5 hours, you rock it, because you build in this expectation of it's these products at this price for these many hours. Right. And certainly they've had people queuing around the street for it. So again, I think that certainly in my industry, that pop-up industry, we're developing new ways of either bringing new people into physical retail, or saying to existing retailers, here, look, here's a right, jab, right hook, to use a Vanacek phrase, that will, create some buzz, stick some money in the till, and actually, get you some recognition.
Okay. And so how much emphasis do you think needs to be placed on price. Is price a driver in the decision-making process right now?
I haven't seen it be up to now. I really haven't. There is a consumer expectation, I think, that or used to be that pop-ups were going to be slightly less expensive than mainstream retailing. But I can tell you, some of the products and people that we're working with, they're selling at full price now,
right.
and there isn't that pilot hide, sell it cheap. We're a pop-up. We're only going to be here for 3 months and we're gone. I don't think that mentality is transmitting through. Certainly with the people that I'm working with, I'm not seeing that. So I don't think price is becoming an issue. January through March, it might, of course, because people will have overspent, and as we're expecting, and we'll all be in this kind of holiday hangovers. But so that might impact it. But right now, I'm not seeing that's actually a major issue.
Okay. One more question on pricing. Are you seeing price inflation right now with our rising cost of good? I mean, our cost of acquisition, cost of good hasn't gone up, but the cost of acquisition is going up. And are we going to see price inflation?
Great question. I think we're likely to. I think we are. I was watching something just on the news a couple of days ago about all of the ships that are sitting outside the port, and we just can't find enough truck drivers to move them. And so I think scarcity and exclusivity then drives the price up. And it is that old adage that do you sell X? Yeah. Well, how much do you sell it for? $10. Well, Fred next door is selling it at 15. Well, yeah, when I've got it, I'd sell it. When I haven't got it, I sell it for 15 as well.
Right.
So I think you're going to see some of that. I think if you're a smart retailer, you'll look at what's the benefit of that to my consumer, right? Am I going to drive people away because they say, oh, hang on a sec, that's going up, and we know it's going up in food, right? And I get all of that in terms of the scarcity of produce, but I think you have to look at your customer base. You look at your product. Are you still making a decent margin out of it anyway, that you don't need to, for the sake of another couple of bucks, unsettle your customer?
Right.
But I'm sure we'll see a little bit of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm someone that looks forward to a bit of price inflation. I think the race to the bottom has consumed a lot of service that it should never have consumed. The power of me walking into a local store. It's Cheers. I want to go where people know me. I want to go where everybody knows my name, and I'm prepared to pay a little bit more. And this race to the bottom has in pre-COVID, the race to the bottom, it's been give up service. Yeah. And now we're going to give back more service, and maybe we're going to get a little bit more money out of that. And I wouldn't mind a couple of more margin dollars, not on the greedy side of life, Steve, but on the let's deliver more value to her.
And I think if you take that approach, Dan, that's exactly the right approach to take. But there's going to be some people thinking, actually, I can really gouge this a bit more. And they're the guys that don't last long anyway.
Right. They're short-lived.
They're here today. They're short-lived. And I think as consumers over the last 10 years, we've become far more sophisticated around that. Okay. Right. We have a saying in Yorkshire, in the United Kingdom, that you buy cheap, you buy twice.
Yes.
Right.
Well said.
And I think the consumers realizing that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Everybody's talking about, Amazon are opening out big stores now, and is that letting the fox? What was the phrase I saw yesterday? Is that letting the fox into the hen house?
Right.
Well, so what? You're not competing with those guys,
right?
You're servicing, your community, local being the new global. You're servicing those people that love what you do, that are loyal to you, that will go and tell their friends, go here because every time I walk in, they know my name. Every time, if they haven't got it, they're going to get it for me.
Yes.
And are going that extra mile to bring them back into the store. Now, that's as important in pop-up retailing as it is in normal, leased brick and mortar retailing.
Right.
There is no difference. And if you think that pop-up retailing is a cheaper version in terms of offering customer service, you couldn't be more wrong. Because
yes.
If anything, it's more important because you're there for a shorter amount of time and you want those guys to be coming back.
Right.
And if we take the example of the streetwear guys again, and I talk about them a lot because I'm so proud of what they're doing, that they've got people coming back in because of this, switching inventory out every week, but they've just turned this into a cool place. People can come in and play vinyl, and they've been bringing in kind of pop-ups in pop-ups. So they had a woman come in just a couple of weeks ago with cupcakes who sold out in 2 hours. They had like 200 people through the store.
Yeah.
So you've just got to keep, adding the value and adding the value. Yeah, if that transmits into, a couple of extra bucks, absolutely right. Because you've got to pay for it somehow.
Right.
But that's where 2022, you'll see that business continue to grow and continue to do better because you will keep building in that loyalty.
Mm-hmm. And so we talked about maybe Amazon opening up stores. And for me, the gloom that comes before the doom is much more painful. There really isn't doom. If Amazon's going to open up stores, it's not going to be to make less money. It's not going to be to sell based on price. It is going to be another layer of convenience. And we will see prices increase in an Amazon store from what the fulfillment costs are, at this 65,000 square foot warehouse around the corner from me. It's going to be completely different. And that will put them on more of a level playing field in our brick and mortar environment than what they are today. And they're only going to do this because it is about, number one, gaining market share, and number two, delivering more convenience. It is more convenient today to shop in a local store than it is to buy online.
100%.
I get it when I want it, right? I get the right product, not the wrong product. I have had this experience of getting twice the wrong product from the same company, not what I ordered, which are just simple human errors in fulfillment that wouldn't happen in that store. So it's become an inconvenience to me. And I think that we're going to see that there is a more emphasis on the buy online, pick up in store. Yes, that has value, but even just the ability to do a drive-by a local store and stop in, that's about convenience. And I think that that's probably where we're going to see them, deliver some more emphasis, and it'll help us in, their prices will go up, not down, to do business.
No, I agree. I think the other message it sends though, Dan, is, and you're right, it's about market share, it's about convenience. But I also think it says to the bigger world, actually retailing works. Brick and mortar retailing works. And if you want to kind of, poke a hole in the doom there and shine a light through it, that's the hole that we should be, putting our finger in and expanding.
Yeah.
It means retail is working, and it's working every day because because the convenience of that, the service level of that, it is what people want.
Right. Yeah. Really well said, Stephen. I love this conversation. Let us know, how do we follow you? Where do we go and find you to get some of that daily inspiration that you offer?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at The Retail Specialist. You can find me on TikTok at The Pop-Up Expert. There's always something on there. I've coined this phrase, how goes the fight? Every morning when I do this kind of minute thing. And if I can take a few seconds just to explain that.
Please.
It's not about, where we're going into battle. It's about how goes the fight to bring better things to our lives? How goes the fight of life? And I love that phrase. And I don't know, I said it once and I got all these people go, I really love that phrase. What does it mean? And it's about, it's about the battle of winning. It's not about the battle of losing. It's about the battle of winning, not in a confrontational way, not in an aggressive way. It's just, we all love the fight. It's that excitement I was talking about. So you can find me on TikTok at the Pop-Up Expert, Instagram at the Retail Specialist. You can find my website, the popupexpert.com. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You can email me, Steve at the Pop-Up Expert. You can connect, I'm sure, through yourself, Dan.
For sure.
But if you're looking at this, we've got some great ideas, some great strategies. Anybody that drops me an email always gets a free copy of our book, Pop-Up for Beginners, which we updated for 2021. And so, I'm always happy to give that away to give people a kind of insight into what they could be doing.
How goes the fight? How goes the fight? I keep saying, keep fighting the good fight. Keep fighting the good fight. And I'm going to ask him now, you got to go follow Steven, because he's going to ask you, how goes the fight? And my friend, I do get some daily inspiration from you. You're somebody that pops into my feed frequently. And I always, in today's world, you got to hit the screen to unmute. And you are absolutely somebody I unmute.
Bless you. Can I just say something around all of that, though, Dan? Is from a social media perspective, do not get hung up on the vanity of likes and clicks, right? Yeah. Because you never know how many people are seeing what you do.
Right.
And on a few occasions, in fact, just in New York last week, I had a couple of people come up and say, I see you every day on Instagram, on Instagram Reels. And I'm kind of like, what? And so you just don't know.
Right.
And if one person takes something away from that, if one person goes, actually, look, the fight goes well. And I'm not the only person going through this, because it's not all razzmatazz. It's kind of like, some days, I did something just the other week. There are some days when you just don't want to get out of bed, because you're kind of like, but you got to show up for you. Right. I'm showing up for me every day.
Right.
And that's why I get to, wake up and think, I wish I was 30 years younger, because I've got so much more to do. Right.
And that's really a valid point. Don't get caught up in the vanity of it. Some of us get caught up in the idea of being famous. Well, I don't think fame is the right reason to do that. No. I can tell you this, we don't do a podcast to get rich. We don't do a podcast to get famous. We do a podcast to put good shit out there in the world that's relevant to the retailer, to help them keep fighting the good fight. And I have, we measure everything, and there's a lot that are intangible or that we can't measure. I don't know how many people actually see the story or the reel, or, and I don't control that audience. Someone else does. I just keep putting it out there, just like you, brother. Good job.
That's what we got to do. Just every day, show up for ourselves and stick it out there. And if it helps one person, job done. Yeah.
Awesome. Well done. Steven, thank you so much. Folks, I will ensure that this podcast gets in the CRS weekly newsletter. If you're not a subscriber to our weekly newsletter, head over to retailbycrs.com and subscribe. You can share this podcast on all your favorite platforms. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, hey, you got to listen to this podcast with the Pop-Up Expert, or more importantly for me, the Retail Specialist, because my friend, you are a specialist. Thank you again so much for doing this. Keep fighting the good fight.
Always a pleasure, Dan. Yeah. How goes the fight, everybody? Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Cheers. Bye-bye.